In today's video, we're going to continue on with 1.1 measurements, and we're going to look at the two common systems that exist in the world. To start, what I want to do is show you the notes from last video and the notes that you will be taking in this video. Because remember, I want you guys to get used to this note-taking system, because I'm not gonna keep giving you the notes side by side throughout the year. It's only going to be for another couple of videos. So, looking at the two notes side by side, first thing I want you to notice at the top of the page, only yesterday's notes have Chapter 1 measurement written on it. That's because I only want you to write that at the start of a new chapter. We're going to be on Chapter 1 for a little while, so you won't have to write a new chapter for a little while. I'll tell you when we get to that. Notice that they both have the same title, 1.1 measurements. That's because we're still in the same section of this chapter. The learning goals are different because we're going to be going over some new content. So you're going to have something you need to be able to do by the end of this one, and like any video. And notice that the titles for the blocks of text are different. Last video's was measurements. This video has two common systems and international system of measurement. Those titles are the titles of the slides. You'll notice that when we get to those slides. So what are the two common systems? The two common systems are going to be the English system and the SI or metric system, as it's also known. We're going to start off looking at the English system. So before we get into that, just write down your learning goal. What I'd like you to do for today is compare English and SI measurements. That third one we'll get into the third video. So the two common systems are the English and the SI, or metric. The English system is going to be the one that's used for everyday measurements in the United States. Now, if you grew up in the United States, this is the system that you're used to. More likely than not. I won't say that everybody's used to this. Some people might have grown up in the US and used the metric system, but in the United States, when you're driving on the road, when you're reading a temperature, when you're looking at measurements, you typically see things in the English system. You see miles, you see yards, you see feet, you see inches, pounds, pints, quarts, gallons, cups, teaspoons. Those are all English system units. Now that last bullet point on this slide, you don't have to write that down. That's just a little cool trivia fact, but I'm not going to hold you responsible for that. So you only have to write down the first two bullet points on this slide. So the English system, used almost predominantly in the United States, almost exclusively in the United States, is what we are familiar with. But what about the rest of the world? The majority of the rest of the world uses the International System of Measurement, the SI system. And the SI system, the acronym, comes from the French name, Le Système International d'Unité. I think I pronounced that right. I apologize if I butchered the French. Now the SI is a far, far simpler system than the English system, and you'll see why when we compare them side by side. But just to give you the reasoning is because the SI, the units are from a base of 10. So what that means is that in this metric system, in the SI system, there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 100 centimeters in a meter, and 1,000 meters in a kilometer. Let's compare those side by side to the near English system equivalents. So I want to compare English versus SI again. In the English, there's 12 inches in a foot. There's 3 feet in a yard. And then there's, let's get this right, 1,760 yards in a mile. Okay, so what's next? Metrically, there's 10 millimeters per centimeter, 100 centimeters per meter, and 1,000 meters per kilometer. Which one looks easier to you? You can see that the SI system is a lot easier than the English system. The English system has all these random numbers that kind of come together. They make sense, but in a way, the SI system is just easier to, you don't even have to memorize it. It's just 10, 100, 1,000. And scientists use it for one of those reasons. It's just because it makes numbers and manipulating numbers easier. And the rest of the world uses it because, well, it's just easier. So let's look at a ruler, for instance. On a ruler, you've got both the English system in inches and we've got the metric system with centimeters. If we look at the English system, look at an inch. Inside of that inch, there are half inches, quarter inches, eighth inches, 16th inches. Inside a centimeter, there are 10 millimeters. That's it, 10 millimeters. Let's look at a meter stick. Okay, meter stick has both English and it has metric. On the English side, inches, again, half inch, quarter inch, eighth inch. Metric side, centimeters have 10 millimeters. Okay, what about the entirety of the meter stick right here? We go to the end, and there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. What about a yard? Well, a meter is a little bit bigger than a yard, so this goes above it, but a yard is 36 inches, or 3 feet. So there's 12 inches in a foot, or 3 feet in a yard, and then down the metric side, there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, or 100 centimeters in a meter. It's so much simpler, so much easier. So that's just a basic comparison between the two. English, metric, which is easier? What do you think? See you guys in class.